What's up, G?
Do you know what happens when you start early?
I do, G. You grow wealthy.
It's time for Money with Mac and G.
Finance for you and your family. G, you know we learned a ton about investing and some great stuff about stocks.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get started. But where do you buy a stock? Do you have any idea?
No, I'm not really sure how that works. And I don't think every large company sells a stock either.
Why do you say that?
Well, Dad said something about how Uber can now be bought, but I guess last year you couldn't.
Okay, that's a bit strange. Why don't we see if Dad can fill in some gaps? Dad!
What's going on? I'm learning some new riffs, baby, on my guitar.
Grant and I were talking a little bit about how you can buy a stock.
Yeah, Dad, you helped clear up some questions on investing in stocks, but how do we get started?
Do you know which companies you can invest in? Any big company. I like the way you're thinking. You're right.
Bingo.
Big companies are the ones who can afford to sell their stock, but not all companies want to sell their stock.
Didn't you say that companies need money, so they either borrow it or sell part of the company?
I did, but not all companies need money. Some do really well on their own, and they earn enough money to grow. Wouldn't that be great?
Absolutely. So there are big companies that don't sell stock?
Yep. That's called a private company. Mac, you'd probably love the Mars Company. It's a private company.
Does it sell chocolate?
You betcha. Mars bars, M&Ms, Snickers, Twix, and many others.
That's awesome. Do they sell Milky Way bars too?
Yep. Really cool, huh? And they also sell other things like Uncle Ben's rice. I had to get that one in there. And we could buy pet food for Oreo. And I love Orbit gum, which they also sell.
And they don't sell their stock?
Nope. They are the third biggest private company in the United States. They sell over $35 billion of product and have over 100,000 employees.
Wow! So, if that's a company that doesn't sell stock and it's called private, what do you call a company with stocks?
That's called a public company. You have to do what's called an IPO or initial public offering.
Okay, I'm not sure I followed the word public. Private is easy. You want to keep a secret, you keep it private. And so a private company doesn't share ownership like you don't share a secret.
That's right. An IPO is the first time you can buy the stock. Initial means at the beginning. My initials are BJ because the letter B is at the beginning of my first name and J is the beginning of my last name.
Okay, so it's the first time you can buy the stock?
Yep. It's the first time the company offers you the opportunity to buy its stock. We've gone to a public library lots of times. Do you know what public means?
Mom said anyone can go to the public library. It's a library open to everyone.
Exactly. So a public company can be bought by anyone who wants to buy its stock.
That's cool. So the IPO is the first time the stock can be bought by anyone?
Exactly. As we spoke about last time, it costs a lot of money, and since the government wants to protect everyone who buys it, there are lots of rules.
What do you have to be protected against?
A long time ago, companies lied about how well their companies were doing. They kept saying they were making lots of money. So what do you think happened to their stock price?
The expectations kept going up?
Absolutely. And it happened with a lot of companies. When everyone found out the companies lied, the investors tried to sell their stock. Lots of supply, no demand. What do you think happened if nobody wanted to buy it?
The price dropped like a rock because there was no demand.
Yep. And it was one of the most important things that started the Great Depression. That's a story for a completely other time.
So, have there been IPOs recently that I might know?
Grant, do you remember Uber? They had an IPO this year.
Really? That's a taxi service company, right? How much money do they get from selling their stock?
Around $8 billion. And yes, it is the taxi service.
That's crazy. 8 billion. So, we can buy part of Uber?
Yep. First, you need an account that holds your stock. We spoke about a bank account before, right?
Yep, Danelle helped us open our first bank accounts, but that was for money.
So, Do you have to get a different account to hold your stock?
Yep, it's called a brokerage account, sometimes an investment account.
That first one is a weird name. Did you just say someone broke their age? What?
It is weird, but it's called brokerage. Just as you put money into a bank account, you put money into a brokerage or investment account. A person named a broker then helps you buy your stock.
Seriously, Dad? A joker helps you buy stock?
Okay, that was worth a laugh for sure. No, it's called a broker. They're the ones who help buy your stock. I have friends who are brokers. Some are very funny, and I guess I would call some of them jokers for sure.
But I thought we could buy stock online, like anything else.
That's true, but we aren't allowed to buy the stock directly from the stock market. You can think about it as if you buy food from a supermarket online.
Is that where Mom orders it and they deliver it to the front porch?
Exactly. We buy it from the stock market and the broker delivers it to our account.
Cool. So, what's a stock market?
Is it like a supermarket that sells fruits, vegetables, cereal, cheese, and all kinds of other food? But for stock?
Yes, it is. A market is where you have someone who wants to buy something.
Like us.
Yep. And then you have someone who wants to sell something.
And that's a store, right? Like Whole Foods or Kroger or Publix?
Those are well-known supermarkets for sure.
So there's a buyer, which is us, and a seller. If it's an IPO, that would be the company?
Yep. And after the first time, it could be your teacher, the guy down the street, or someone on the other side of the world.
That's strange. And the broker helps the seller and us, the buyer, find each other?
Yep. Perfect, G.
So can you explain the market again?
Absolutely. For example, we go to different markets to buy different stuff. Can you name a store or market that sells clothes, another that sells electronics, and another that sells guitars?
I know the guitar one. That's the Guitar Center, where we bought my sweet Taylor.
We bought the Wii U at Best Buy, so that's an electronics store.
And we bought some of our school clothes at Kohl's.
Bingo! You buy different things at different stores, and we call them markets. A clothing market, a supermarket, and an electronics market. They bring the buyer and the seller together.
So there are different stock markets, depending on which company or stock we want to buy?
Yep. The biggest is the New York Stock Exchange. And Grant, I know you'd be interested in the second largest. It's called the NASDAQ.
I do love getting cash back. Is that what you said?
No, I said NASDAQ, not cashback. It means National Association of Securities Dealers Automated Quotations. Woo! That's way too long to say each time. So they use the short version, NASDAQ.
So why would I like it? Does this have something to do with video games?
Well, the New York Stock Exchange was started in 1817 and the NASDAQ started in 1971. That's over 150 years.
That's old.
That's a big difference. Can you guess the companies on the New York Stock Exchange compared to the NASDAQ?
I'd have to say older companies, right? Like Ford Motor Company? They've all been making cars for a very long time. And Mickey Mouse has been around since 1928, so Disney, right? And Coca-Cola was 1892.
Perfect. Grant, can you guess what's on the NASDAQ?
Must be a lot of tech companies like Apple. Aunt Lori said Tesla uses a lot of computers, so they have to be newer companies, right?
Yep. Both of those are definitely on the NASDAQ.
What about Google? And would Amazon and Netflix be on there too?
Yep, all three are on the NASDAQ. Google does a lot on the internet. Netflix uses computers to send movies over the internet. And Amazon uses computers that help businesses run better.
That's crazy, Dad. NASDAQ sounds like it's a lot of technology. From all the pieces that go into computers, as well as companies that make software that tells a computer what to do.
Like video games. That's totally software. And there are also companies that use computers to do new and interesting things, like Apple and Netflix.
I couldn't be happier to hear you nail it. Normally, you have to be 18 to open your own brokerage account. But let's get you an account so we can get you going.
That would be great. I want to start investing now. I really want to buy some stuff in my own account.
Don't forget me!
I won't, G-Man.
Thanks, Dad!
You're welcome. When investing in stock, you've got to have an account that allows you to buy a stock. This is your brokerage or investment account. These are at your TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, Merrill Lynch, and others. You have to be 18, but a parent can open a custodial account for those under 18. This can be very helpful to engage kids, which can watch their stocks go up and down and begin to ask why things have changed. Sometimes there isn't a clear reason. When you have an account, you have to know which stocks you can buy. Private companies don't allow you to buy stocks as they are privately owned. Public companies have stock anyone can buy after they have their initial public offering or IPO. This sale of stock helps the company fund future opportunities, among other things. Stock markets are like any other market. There is a person who wants to buy and another person who wants to sell. A broker helps both to get to an agreed-upon price and has access to the various markets. The New York Stock Exchange is the largest market in the world. You can buy what are seen as older companies as it started over 150 years before the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is generally seen as filled with tech companies because it's much younger. Many of the younger companies decided to go with NASDAQ for many reasons, including cost. We've made a ton of progress from learning basics on stocks and bonds, markets, and more. It might be the right time to start your investment plan and engage your kids. Thanks for being here. If you like our show, please subscribe and rate our podcast on your favorite podcast app. And of course, share the show with your friends and family. Here's a preview of next week's podcast.
Mac, now that we have better handle on stocks, do you think we should dive into bonds?
Well, that does make sense. Dad says that stocks and bonds go together like peas and carrots.
That's funny. Isn't that some old movie Dad loves?